All right, so we have George Adebonan, sustainability expert and analyst. He joins us back now. Thank you, George, for hanging on there. So let's continue. You were about to wrap up. I needed to wrap up that thought on how well Nigeria as a country has fared in addressing the issue of climate change effects and vis-a-vis the plastic pollution. Hello, George. Can you hear me?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. So please go ahead now.
Hello, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you, George. Please go ahead.
Okay, yeah. So let me go back to what I was saying earlier on. Thank you so much once again for having me around. Yeah. So what I was saying is that if you look at Nigeria as a country, Nigeria has been able to set up a lot of structures, platforms to address the issue of sustainable development and mostly achieving net zero agenda within by 2030 and 2050, which is the second leg or the second stage of it. So I say, for instance, Nigeria is big on some agreements. For example, the African Alliance, the Africa Circular Economy Alliance. Okay, come home. We have also Circular Economy Working Group, which has been set up. Then we saw that last year, the former President Muhammadu Buhari was able to push for the country to set up what we call what's it called? This climate fund. Yeah, they had to set up a climate fund last year or early this year. Looking at also what President Osibanjo did regarding the energy transition policies. He did a very robust work with his team on energy transition policy for the country. We also saw a lot of partnership with African Finance Corporation, NSIA, Nigerian Sovereign Investment Fund, and the rest of them. So a lot of policies have been put in place, have been set up within the past few years, let's say 4 or 5 years, and all of them are geared towards ensuring that we meet up with our 2030 goals. Also, Nigeria is a signatory also a signatory for the Paris Agreement. But where I have a challenge is implementation, and that's like a general problem in Nigeria, where we have a lot of very interesting and lofty policies, but when we come to implementation, it's usually a challenge. So I believe if all these policies, all these frameworks, all these platforms are well executed and the policies are well implemented, Nigeria should be at the forefront of championing sustainability, climate change mitigation, and most importantly, sustainable development advancement.
Oh, okay, so we do know that plastic waste has become an increasingly alarming environmental issue. And if you look at this World Environment Day theme, according to UN, is beat plastic solution. So how can we shift our perspective from perceiving it as a problem to recognizing it as an untapped resource for wealth creation?
Oh, thank you very much. That's a very interesting one. So as of today, the United Nations has looked at the plastic economy, and they say it's about $1 trillion every year. $1 trillion every year. That's the plastic economy. And if you look at countries that have even, if you look at the overall global implementation in terms of harnessing the wealth in plastic, we've done just only 7.2%.
Right.
7.2% globally. So like you said, is a secret gold mine waiting to be harnessed, waiting to be explored.
Right.
The one thing that Nigeria must do is that we must go back to the existing policies. If I tell you there are no existing policies, I would that should be a lie. Nigeria is a founding member of Africa Circular Economy Alliance. It's a founding member. And if you look at the policies and the frameworks surrounding or on which this alliance is built upon, it's quite robust. Then coming back home, we have this, which I said before, we have a circular economy working group. Just that, again, implementation and execution is the major problem. So if we go back and, look at how we can harness all this, drive it with across all partnership, private, public partnership, companies, corporate bodies, we will be able to do quite a lot and harness this secret gold mine, like I said. But if you even look at it, Nigeria is already implementing it, just that we have not been able to organize it. So then you go out and you see those women, you see women selling granite, trying to use plastic, coke plastic bottles. It's a way of, how do I put it? That's a way of, that's a way of practicing reuse. You know, the circular economy it can be grouped into, like, there are several ways of approaching it. So if you look at those women, what they're actually practicing is reuse. They may not know it, but that's exactly what they're practicing. So if Nigeria can come together and organize it, make it proper, put it in a well-organized form or manner, believe me, we have so much to benefit in this area, so much to benefit in this area, so much billions of dollars to harness in this particular area. So I don't see it as a challenge so much, though it's a wicked problem, but the approach we use and our ability to execute or implement matters if we'll be able to turn it from waste or from a challenge to prosperity or from waste to wealth. Thank you.
But let's talk about empowering, individuals to make more sustainable choices actively by participating actively in the transition from waste to wealth creation. So education is important, all right? So how do we go about empowering individuals for this task?
Okay, thank you very much. So like you said, education is very important. That's why, like 2 years ago, I started an NGO called the Regenerative Sustainability Organization of Nigeria. And one of our aims was to bring up sustainability education. So one of the ways we can achieve this is to adopt what we call bottom-up approach. There's what we call bottom-up approach, where you move implementation and execution from the community, from the grassroots, from the family level, how they treat waste, educating them how to manage waste, how to treat waste, how to treat plastics, and the importance of, doing the right thing, how it impacts them as individuals, how it impacts the environment, and how it impacts the future, even the unborn generation. So if the right education or the right enlightenment is given, you are going to see a lot of improvement. You are going to see a lot of this important space or this important ecosystem, and make some with education. It starts with enlightenment. Then you must also incentivize this sector. For instance, there's a guy who started a school in Ajegunle area of Lagos where parents pay their school fees with plastic bottles. I don't know if you've heard about that school. So
yes,
school,
of course, I've heard about that story. Yes.
Yes. So that school is a shining example of how we can empower individuals to trigger what we call innovation, trigger what we call paradigm shift, and begin to explore this untapped sector. There are so many ways. I talked about women who use plastic bottles of drinks like Coke and use them to bottle their granite and other things and other pastries. So these are the typical examples of how we can come in, incentivize this space or this sector, give the right education, write the right policies that will make people to consciously and deliberately tap in.